Hello everyone, it's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I never do this alone. I have the ladies of Your View. Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, Biagilo in the building. Haven't seen in a while.
Yes.
I think Thursday was the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
How have you been? How's your weekend?
My weekend was good. It was a movie weekend for me.
Oh, nice.
So I sat home. I was on Netflix. I watched about 4 movies.
Okay, you alone?
Me alone. I was just in my bed eating my kuli and seeing my movie. You know,
nice.
somebody recommended this
short
season, When They See Us. Yes, and I saw the movie. I didn't know I was going to cry, but I got emotional at the end, and I cried like a baby.
See, I
felt terrible.
When They See Us has been so popular, the reviews are great, and I decided to watch it. So when I watched the first episode, I just had to call someone and say, listen, did this thing end well? Because I'm not ready to go through this 6-7 episodes of this. I can't. So when he told me it ended well, I said, okay, I'll continue watching because I can't even get myself into that roller coaster, very painful experience. But I'm happy it was a good, nice series.
Yeah.
How was they documented the history?
Yes.
And that is important.
How are you doing,
I'm
Tope?
good. So I was invited to Nigeria FM yesterday, and you know, somehow it didn't click in my head that I was going to speak Pidgin. Somehow, it didn't click in my head until they now introduced me and said, "This now woman matter," and I was like, "Okay." I'm speaking.
How was it?
Almost an hour, and I was flowing.
Are you kidding?
My husband was like, "You try. You didn't fall my hand, you know," because there was a lot of code mixing and code switching.
I would have been lost.
It's
me. They shouldn't invite that kind of thing.
Pidgin, so I'm shocked.
So no, they haven't heard me speak Pidgin, but actually it really did do well. But it was based on anger management. It's something I posted on Instagram, and the lady saw the video and felt that this is a topic that she would like to someone to talk about on our own show. And I think that the feedback was good. A lot of people are dealing with anger issues that they are unaware of. So, and people don't know how to manage aggravation. A lot of people. So it was good to just share. It was different because I'm here as a co-host. I was there as a professional. You know, so it was like they're asking you questions. I'm feeling like, oh, the way we bring guests here, I'm firing questions. It was nice though. It was different.
Good. Alaja, how you doing?
Very well. I forgot to gist you guys about my experience at the Dorcas Cancer Foundation, the pediatric oncology.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
I went.
Now you're going to go to.
You need to go to that place. That's made me cancel everything I had for the weekend and reflect seriously on what exactly you should be thanking God for. Because I was meant to talk to the mothers, and truly, I've never had any oncology, cancer, whatever experience. So I didn't know where to come from. And they were looking, and I was feeling guilty. So I went on my own personal experience on my childhood journey, my fertility and all that, and said, okay, we all know trials come. I cannot claim to know what you're going through, but every person has their own battles that they are fighting. I thought I was able to communicate, and I got feedback, and it was like I communicated. I even got a plaque. They gave me an award for impacting, and I left there feeling guilty. The reason is because I knew the Dorcas Cancer Foundation is trying to raise funds to meet the treatment of some of the children. I saw 5 children. I couldn't complete the ward visitation.
It was so heavy.
It can be very heartbreaking.
They need serious partnership. They need to raise funds. The treatment costs money. Dr. Joseph, Corrective, and their team, they're doing amazing.
Wow. I feel the burden to support.
See, there are people that are doing so much great work. I feel the need
to support. I've left, I was thinking, if I had more to give, what can I give? What can I do to raise funds? I got my email that they still are looking to raise funds. So if you are willing to raise funds for them, I'd love to.
We'll see what we can do to help them out on the side. But you see, talking about kids, I mean, my daughter was discharged yesterday, and as we were leaving, somebody else was coming in, and the little baby, I mean, you can just see the worry on the mother's face. It's so hard for a mother to go through cuddling a little baby, you know, on the baby's ill, weak. You could see
when they're helpless.
Oh my Lord!
I could see the pain in the mother's faces.
I'm telling you,
looking lost.
Do to you. It makes you appreciate life, and reduce your complaining on irrelevant things. You know, I took my child for nebulizer, and I saw a baby. They can't do naming ceremony because that baby can't even go home, and so the struggle. The woman was crying that there's mosquito here, there's mosquito here. I came from a private. They said go to the private hospital now, but she knew that she needed to access quality health in a general hospital, but there was mosquito lot to deal with. So I could see her pain that I could have fought better.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Yesterday,
it makes you be great. You just be grateful that.
I had to just leave a word of prayer for the family because I just knew that they were very worried, but I knew the kids would be okay.
Amen.
Okay, it's Tuesday. A lot of things happening in the papers. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll discuss the top stories. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, let's start with The Nation. Starting very quickly with The Nation. DCP, 12 others dead as Shiite protest in Abuja. Tearful buy for Fashion Roti's daughter. Why new minimum wage is delayed, says federal government. COSA, DIG to oversee alleged rape. Kwara police to ensure release of Turks. All rises despite Persian Gulf tension. And El-Rufai, Royal must scout for goalkeepers. Okay, let's start with the minimum wage first.
Yes, okay. So the federal government is saying through the civil service, the head of the civil service, Mrs. Winifred Oyoita, saying that the senior civil servants are bringing unrealistic demands to the table and is going to likely affect the implementation of the minimum wage. So they are... there's a difference in percentage. That's what they are working on at the moment. So the federal government is proposing 9.5% of salary increase for workers in grade level 7 to 14.
Exactly.
Then 5% for workers in grade level 15 to 17. But Labour is saying that you have to give 30% to workers in level 7 to 14 and 25%. So it's that percentage
that's what's delaying because those
now.
Below are fine because they're the ones earning below 30,000.
Yes.
So those ones are going to get their 30 minimum wage. But it's those people from 7 all the way to 15 that's
But Labour is saying
delay.
that the federal government did not put all of these modalities while they were doing the negotiation. So it's just like blocking them at the end of the day.
No, but it worries a bit because you should have foresight. Leaders should see every angle possible. That's why you have all those committees come together. It reminds me of what BRF said, was talking about the fact that what we're doing isn't minimum wage review. What we're doing is salary. And everybody is getting salary increase across board.
Let's
in the
talk about
country that is suffering.
There's a story here with 2 mining workers dead, 1 injured in Ibadan. Quarry accident. Who has that story?
There was a quarry accident in the area. I can't remember.
Was in Ibadan?
Yes, in Ibadan.
Oh, yes.
Happened in Ibadan.
Ibadan State.
2 people died. 3 people were actually injured. 1 is in the hospital right now. That's basically the report in the that was Daily Trust. I took it in the Daily Trust. Basically, very short report. They didn't specify, the name. They just said it happened at Ologweru, area of Ibadan. And, this was, of course, quarry.
If there's no investigation, we can't prevent it. Quarries, a lot of quarries are just, they are done in a small-scale way. And the very big ones, we don't have enough supervision to ensure that issues like this, accidents like this that are preventable are avoided. So they should be investigated.
Let's move on to Daily Trust. DCP, core member, others killed as police Shiites clash. And Daily Trust has a picture story of exactly how it happened. Buhari sets 11,000 megawatts target by 2023. 2 killed, many injured in Ibadan as quarry caves in. NIC indices resume with 40% loss amid profits taken. Let's talk about the Shiites for a second. The deputy commissioner of police and the young boy from Channels TV had lost their lives.
According to the Shiites, they had a peaceful procession. When it turned bloody, nobody could account for it. But the Daily Trust carry a very clear picture of where they were supposed to go on their procession and how they started peacefully. At some point, they were confronted and it became bloody. And according to the report, the DCP, the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations in Abuja, was trying to calm nerves, talking to some of them before this bullet hit him and he died. A young NYC member working with the Channels TV was also hit. And some Shiite members according to the Shiites, 11 of their people were affected. Right. Only 1 police officer and then they attacked a NEMA van, that's the emergency.
Now, what I read in the papers is that whilst the procession was going on, the protesting was going on, they were walking towards the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And according to the police, they had intelligence that they were armed, and they were going to actually blow down the building of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Whoa. That's why they stopped them, according to the reports. And at that point also, the Shiites torched 2 vehicles, and one of the, I think, rescue unit, I believe. So that's what caused because according to the police report, they got shots were fired from the protest. So it wasn't as peaceful as we thought. It was actually almost like they were armed for that protest.
Yeah, but
so that's what caused the clash.
Yes.
And then
the media person is saying that it was a peaceful protest. But that the shooting that happened was from the police. The police accidentally.
They didn't have guns. The person was saying they didn't have guns.
I can understand your concern, because every time there's a supposedly peaceful procession, it's hijacked. And they keep insisting they are not the one. I think they should take responsibility for not checking well among their members. They can't keep hiding behind.
Because somebody touched the band. How did that happen?
This has cost us lives of Nigerians, and then the government too on their part. Particularly, I'd like to call the Attorney General of the Federation. Yes. This man has been granted bail legitimately by a competent court of competent jurisdiction. We cannot be going back and forth. We should find intelligent ways to settle this. Now they will be prescribed. We are going further. We might have another Boko Haram on our hands.
And they said that in the interest of national security, that's why they are detaining him, because they've responded several times.
In the reports I read, there was a simultaneous procession, a procession like that in other countries.
Canada,
happening.
India, and
so
UK.
we have maybe another international major crisis on our hands.
Quick addition.
Should be more intelligent.
We must empower our police to de-escalate protests in a way that does not harm or kill people, so that we are not firing live bullets.
And
we keep having this every time we have protests. There's always almost somebody died, somebody got shot. We must learn these de-escalating issues that don't lead to loss of lives.
In situations where protesters are armed, what happened?
Yes.
In cases, in the case they're armed, what happened?
You have to protect yourself.
They splash water. They splash
somebody has a gun,
and you're splashing water over a gun.
No. See, the issue from their part, they were not harmed.
According to them.
According to them, they were not harmed.
What if
the police is working on investigation that they had information.
You're right, Sokwe.
So
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that there are always two sides of every story. So if they're not armed, fine. But if they're armed, why should the police splash water on somebody who is armed?
Of course not.
So you have to. So we're not intelligent. Somebody has a live ammunition.
That we check the source of the bullets that have gone down this police.
So the point I'm trying to make is that let us leave it to the intelligence community. Let's leave it to the police to investigate and ensure. Let us know what happened, and then going forward, have better ways of stopping even armed protesters. Okay, moving on to Daily Sun. Sad, tragic, we just talked about that. Excuse me, panic in Abuja. Police arrest 54 suspects. Koza, FCID takes over rape allegation investigation. Labour to blame for delay in implementation for the new minimum wage, says federal government. Tears as Fashoranti's daughter is buried. Zamfara Supreme Court dismisses APC's request to revisit judgment. Let's talk very quickly about Koza. Who has that story?
So the Inspector General of Police has ordered the Deputy Inspector to take over the case, that way to give room for fairness, for order, and impartial investigation. They are also going to investigate the manner in which the letter was taken to their house for investigation.
So I think it's Mr. Inspector Ogbiri. He's going to be the new DIG from FCID.
Investigation Unit.
Okay, moving on to Vanguard. DCP, 7 others killed as Shiite protest turns blood in Abuja. And that picture story here. Insecurity. I think this was spoken in Yoruba, actually. But let me start in Yoruba. It says, Anshamwali, we are not bastards. We'll protect our people, says Southwest Governors as Olakunri's burial. Inspector General Police orders the DIG. We talked about that already. Let's take another story. FG, Siemens signed power deal till 2025, as Buhari said, 2023, target of 11,000 megawatts. Let's start with We're Not Bastards, and then we'll take to Siemens.
So the burial of the Funke Olakunri happened yesterday, and the governor of Ondo State, speaking on behalf of all the southwestern governors, made a statement that we're not bastards, we're ready to protect our people, and that there's no doubt we're faced with major security challenges. He also mentioned the fact that that they are now better prepared. They understand what the challenge will be, and something drastic will be done. There will be no further loss of life.
He added that, listen, they should hide their faces, that this is something, it's not something they're proud of, and I'm paraphrasing. It's something that he understands that, listen, it's the buck stops at their table as the one security personnel, chief security of every state. Yes, so they should have ensured the security of Funke Olakunri, who passed on.
I also pray that is some kind of lip service happening, because it's a mourning period.
Yes,
I think they should be making serious efforts.
We sincerely hope that.
Secure.
I mean, her soul rest in peace, because it's interesting that we didn't hear anything about her children, grandchildren. It was just about
the husband made a very, very touching what's it called? Speech at that burial, very touching, and he talked about how yes, this is the final call, but they would have loved more opportunity to say goodbye and really
Okay, let's move on to the Siemens.
So the federal government have signed a deal with Siemens to increase power production at least till to almost 25,000 megawatts. That's the target for 7 years. But for 2023 to 7,000 megawatts, and then for 2025 to 11,000 megawatts. And the president, you know, as I was reading the story, I was focusing on transmission.
Exactly, because that was my question.
Thank God, he said, my concern is transmission and distribution systems, and that's why I directed that Siemens focus on transmission, distribution infrastructure, especially around economic centers and where jobs are created. So they are already in line with our affairs. And
so, what's interesting also about that article is that the government has identified that the challenges we have right now, the fact that we privatize the discos. Now, so the government can generate a certain amount. So, for example, we can generate maybe 11,000 megawatts, and then the generates, and then the distributors are able to distribute that same amount. They're able to only distribute a maximum of 5,000, I think, recently. So the idea is now to get this government, this Siemens company, to do the transmission and also distribution. So it's a bit more neater, and it's easy to ensure that what is being generated is what's being distributed.
I don't know why for us. I mean,
option, like the way I use my mobile phone, I was able to pick another network and pick another power. Honestly, I can't wait to have that option.
Right now, so as I said, there are 2 phases, and hopefully by the 3rd phase, which is the final phase of getting us 25,000 at some point. But we hope it works out well.
We hope another government doesn't undo it.
That's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, stories, top stories. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So pictures are circulating online of children of many of Nigerian leaders who graduated abroad. This has definitely generated different reactions by Nigerians over the state of our educational sector. Some even quoted that leaders can't risk the education of their children in Nigeria, but some also said that they rather school abroad and then come back home and get the best jobs here in Nigeria.
Our jobs.
Private and public sectors aren't good for them. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Please call us on 070-80-668-014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. Okay, so people started digging up graduated pictures of our leaders for many years. Some were recent, some were last year, some they're there online. So people were trying to make the point that it's graduation season, obviously, and lots of leaders' children would actually be graduating. And hey, listen, you can't stop a parent for posting pictures of their kids graduate, but it's a joyous time. However, because these kids are children of our leaders, everybody now have to discuss, okay, what has been done to our educational sector vis-a-vis the fact that they're having to send their kids abroad. So what are your own general thoughts on these pictures making the rounds online? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we should, I'm not very happy with the state of the educational system because I happen to be a teacher. They say once a teacher, always a teacher, even if I'm not in the classroom anymore. And I was able to compare coming from a public school and teaching in an international school with an international curriculum. I was able to compare the output at the end of the day. And I understand the reason why our leaders will not send their children to schools in Nigeria. Because the truth is, our curriculum is obsolete. Obsolete. It's dead. We are in the 21st century. Unfortunately, we are still operating in the 18th century in terms of curriculum. It's overburdened. There are no new ideas introduced. The children don't learn critical thinking skills. The reason we have graduates who come out, they cannot apply knowledge. Because the truth is, according to Bloom's taxonomy, we are still in the least level of intelligence, which is recall and remembering. So they teach you, you remember, and you vomit it, you pass, and few months down the line, you have forgotten what you have read. We have not gotten to that level where we can get the children to be able to apply that knowledge outside the classroom. Okay, so I don't blame them. They know what they are doing, and that's why they can't allow their children to school here. Thank you very much for
bringing us to that point. Yes, we understand the issues we have in the educational sector, but the issue now is, can you blame a person for taking his or her, his sibling or her sibling, her child actually, outside the country to get educated. Now, is it that we're assuming that the money spent is our money, or he might have other legitimate businesses to send his child abroad? So shouldn't he have that? Shouldn't he have the right to decide where his child goes to school?
I know many private citizens running private businesses in Nigeria whose children, right from secondary school, are studying abroad in developed societies, going to the best schools based on their own funding and their decision that this isn't good enough for my kids. I want my kids to have the best. So legitimately, if you can afford it, you should give your child the best education. However, when you become a leader, you must exemplify leadership. Leadership is by example. So if the majority of your population are living in poverty, if majority of the population are going to schools that will not give them opportunity to be better, you see, the challenge is education is the only way for the future of a country to change. The only way a poor person can become wealthy, if not stealing, is through being educated. So when you now create a barrier, that means that no matter how you struggle to get educated, the quality you get cannot take you far. Then there is insincerity on your part because you cannot feel what they're going through until you wear the shoe. You can't feel it.
But listen, let's also understand that, for example, your job is Minister of Health, for example, or Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is totally different from that of the educational sector.
Everybody
now, you are not responsible for that educational sector. It's not in your... So do you think, should I now be responsible? Should I take responsibility for your job?
While I wasn't done with my point originally for this question, I would answer that in that you are in a team. If you feel you cannot take the heat of being in the office, there are conditions for being in the office. For now, our conditions are favorable to anybody to become a politician, become rich, and live the life. But we must make the political class only for those willing to serve and sacrifice for the country. If you're not willing to do that, then you cannot come and take the resources available and live the life you want. When you get there, you make sacrifices. The current challenge we have is we're building bridges with Chinese men. We are building hospitals with Chinese technology, and yet we have schools. There is a big lacuna. The solution for Nigeria lies in the quality of education we have, and yet our leaders can't understand. Until I use the general hospital, you cannot understand what it's like to be in a general hospital. You can't. The beds are terrible. There are mosquitoes there. If no politician goes to general hospital, they will never understand what I'm saying right now or my pain.
So talk about great points, because I would not like to leave it at the door of every leader. This didn't just start happening. I grew up hearing people loving to sound English, to sound Queens, because, you know, it was determined that when we were even little children that you needed to go abroad to have a, would I call it the mentality at the time? Exposure. For you to have class and exposure, it was, and at that time we had the best schools. People were coming from every part of the world to study here. But our mentality as Nigerians generally, we didn't believe in ourselves and what we had, and we watched it go down the drain. All of us collectively, not about leaders alone now, because if you look around, we are only attacking leaders because, in fact, I personally felt offended when Laolo Akonde posted the picture of the son of the vice president, his wife and himself, and they graduated somewhere abroad. I remember when I was in 200 level, and my faculty had to go represent Nigeria at a debate abroad. LASU Laws faculty brought home the award. They won best overall. And schools from America, from England appeared at that debate. We had the best kind of law students in my school then. And I cannot expect somebody to say, no, they don't exist. But you see, the truth is, an average Nigerian student has to work extra. This is beyond the curriculum. Now, that is on one part. We have schools where lecturers are in competition with students. You are supposed to be supervising a master's student and you are competing with the student. How can you find a solution I didn't find? How can you be solving and slowly, gradually kill that student till the students have to look outside to get validation, because you know that validation doesn't exist here. That wasn't a leader. That wasn't the president killing a dream. It was within school. Nigerians collectively must share in the blame of the situation of our education system today.
Okay, let me take this call from
agree
Amadi.
and disagree.
Amadi, are you there? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
What I'm about to say, I was telling my friend 2 days ago, this your topic just reminded me of why is it that, because he was doing his project, his architecture student. In Nigeria, the lecturers, the way everything is, they'll drill students like as if all the best jobs in the country will be given to them. They'll drill them, you go through hell. We have too many A students, very intelligent, and then they come out just to be out there. Everything in Nigeria is always done upside down.
Obsolete.
The drill students, they come out A's. There are too many A students out there, but they don't get jobs. Then you get some dummies, I'm sorry to use that word, outside because they look somehow and they school there, they get them, put them in places, and then we have problems and we're surprised that everything is not going well. Because the real people who are A students, top-notch people, they go through hell in school only to come out to no job. Then why?
Okay, so thank you very
students
much.
in what?
Thank you, Amadi.
Let's bring it back to the fact that Nigerians are complaining that these students that study abroad, yes, they go out with stolen funds allegedly and then come back to take the best jobs.
Why wouldn't they take the best jobs? Do you know why? Let me tell you. Because business owners, employers are result-oriented. So they want you to be able to deliver solutions to their company. And because those people have been trained to be able to see opportunity and deliver solutions, they get the best jobs. Most times they get the jobs on merit, aside from the fact that their father can call this person, just fix my son or fix my daughter. But because the quality of education they have received, they can apply and use to solve problems. An employer originally wants to employ somebody who can solve their problem. It's not about the certifications you carry, it's about what you can deliver.
Okay, no, please, you see,
so they will take the best jobs.
While we're putting the blame, while we might put the blame on everybody, I think everybody contributes to the society we have. We're all a function of our society. But the leaders take responsibility and should be blamed because they are the ones supervising what goes on. There's an attitude you will have in an office. You go to some offices, it's not okay to put a paper on the floor. You can't touch the wall. That's the policy there. No matter how crazy you are in your house, you might be drawing on the wall of your house. This office, the leader has created a structure here that everybody complies with. So when you have a country that has not created a policy on ground, that university is supposed to churn out people that can solve the problem of our society. So we have problems here, and we're bringing Siemens to come and solve our problems. We are bringing China to come and solve our problems. What happened to the engineering graduates we have in Nigeria?
They can't
because there's a problem with the quality of education. So you call your lecturers, you call those professors, you tell them the job you expect them to do. You tell them the quality of graduates you need to move your country forward. So the challenge will still lie at the helms of the leaders, because they are the only ones who have the power to change the situation.
Again, I disagree. Quickly, let me disagree with Obiajulu that what they bring home here from abroad is not the solution. It's the accent and the certificate.
No, I disagree with you.
I can prove it.
No. I disagree with
now, on what Tokwe said here, the truth is, back in the days, there was a policy, a deliberate policy to send Nigerians abroad. So we put Nigerians on scholarship to go abroad for certain professional courses. The goal was that they must return home and work within ministries. I have a family friend working in Ife. He returned from Leeds. He's a professor in Ife presently. Even after being offered jobs in Leeds, he stayed here. He came back home because he went on that scholarship. Nigerians were our government were deliberate at that time with those policies. But what did we do, Nigerians? We went there and some people didn't return. Some people returned and went for private jobs. Some people said, I can't do ministry work. How much would they pay me? And before you know it, we crashed and wasted that opportunity. Even within universities, for instance, a professor who knew it took 10 years to achieve a particular PhD, to create a problem, to solve a problem he couldn't solve, finds a student who is ingenious, who is trying to do this thing, who naturally
change that
gifted. Rather than support that goal, we run it down. Companies like Siemens do that same thing abroad, but companies in Nigeria here would rather trust a Siemens product than a Nigerian product. The person who created a pounding machine came from Uniben. Did we support it? Do we produce pounding machines?
So who do we blame for that?
No, so I think we're saying the same thing.
Business owners, no, I'm agreeing with Tokwe, but this is not about government now. Business owners will not even cite that opportunity and put their funds there.
Right.
You ask a Dangote, come and put your funds.
Because if I put my funds and I import these things and I bring it in or we produce it, the market is porous. Somebody will bring a container of it, and then I don't have the government supporting me to fight the pirates that are pirating my products. My trademark has no value. Right. So the government still has a lot to do on this. And so we blame them for them putting their children in schools abroad. Okay, because until they experience what we experience here, until they have their sharp child
I don't want us to
terrorized.
I want us to go back to the issue. Yes, we understand our leaders are sending their children abroad. But my question is, nobody has really answered my question. Why we understand the sacrifices they have to make, but a legitimate leader, a leader who's making legitimate business, who's doing legitimate business, whose wife decides, I will fund it. Since you're a government official, I will fund it. Should we blame them for sending their children abroad?
Yes, we should, Mariah. When you want a country to develop, a lot of other countries do that. Everybody has to work together. So you know that because we have not really patronized
nobody wants to be
institutions. No. They will. We've not really patronized our institutions. We don't feel it. We can't empathize because we have not been there. You make a law that if you want to serve, these are some of the things that you are going to let go of. You will not go outside the country to take medical treatment. You will not go outside the country for your children's schooling. Then eyes will be on ground. Let me go to the Sustainable Development Goals. Quality education ranks number 4 in that goal. Till today, I do not have a clue of what Nigeria is doing to tap into that SDG. I do not have a clue.
This is the last one.
This one is now working for 2023. Till now, we don't have a clue on what we are doing.
To answer your question, because legitimately there are people that their private businesses can fund this, but we don't have transparency in terms of our income. We don't know what our government officials earned. We don't know how they are spending their money. We don't know where their investment is coming from because of the secrecy of their revenue. And the fact that we know that our government is heavily bloated and the consumption of our major fund, our commonwealth, is by that upper echelon, we would always protest here because they cannot be eating what is meant for all of us to empower us.
We are not begrudging them for taking their children abroad. If we're talking about underperformance...
That's what
I am begrudging them.
Hold on a minute. If we are blaming our leaders for underperformance, generally, we can sit here and I will support. But every single Nigerian who is looking out as the solution for education, who is believing in what we have here, every single lecturer who looks at a student and says, you want to be a student, want to have a first class so that all your company will take you, you would never get it and make sure that student graduates in the 3rd class is guilty. We should look at ourselves. Generally, we are all guilty of this. The mentality of abroad
I've said it here
better than what we have here.
When I was a human rights activist, and actually all the students schooled here. And it was interesting to know that they're products of the society and they're doing well today. And he pridefully says that. And that's somebody who's putting his words, his money where his mouth is.
We had a meeting with BRF and he said, I'm a product of Nigerian universities, but his kids can't go there. The truth is that the quality of education they had, quality of education, they had UI at one of the top 50, top 100 universities. Where is UI now? So when we did not, when we enjoyed a privilege as a young people and we did not give that same to our next generation, then we should be blamed. That's why I blame the leaders. I blame them.
When we come back, still on this issue of education, we'll be talking about career choices. Now that for those that send their children to Nigeria schools and they are graduating, now what's the hope? How do parents help them to channel their degrees or what they've been able to learn from the universities to create jobs or to get proper jobs? And what can you do to help them? Especially because they just got backs, are coming back very soon.
With
to compete with our children. So we're going to bring in an expert, somebody who has definitely information on this line of thought. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So the choice of career is one of life's biggest decisions. As we live in exciting times where there's adjustments and flexibility to career requirements. On the show today, our guests will be addressing the parents on how their children can end up in the right careers, especially in this time where many of them are graduating and there's a lot of competition. Joining us on the show is a human resource professional, Professor Yomi Fawemi. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
You can call us on 070-806-68014. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YoviTVC so we can read your tweets. So the ladies have done an amazing job so far on this discussion on why leaders send their kids abroad and issues arising from the poor educational sector. I'd like you to take parents on an understanding. Okay, they've invested in their children now. The kids are coming out of school, they are serving, they're about to finish serving, and they're looking for jobs. And they're likely to be competing with these ones whose parents are government officials, they've lived abroad, and they see that the opportunities in Nigeria. Nigeria is the new market, that's everybody's coming to Africa. And how can these young ones compete with these people coming up from abroad?
Okay, maybe I should first say that anybody who is planning to compete with somebody, the competition did not start after university. The competition started the day you were born. And therefore, if you have lost out, so if somebody was eating good food and you were not eating good food, you've already lost out. Actually, science says that by age 2, 70% of your brain is formed. So if a child is underfed by age 2 and another child is fed well by age 2, the competition is over. 70% of the competition is already determined by age 2. So the competition is not after we graduate. The competition starts from there. It starts from what happens in primary school. It starts from what they tell the person. Ask yourself this very basic question. Remember your textbook in primary school. The pictures of engineers were males. The picture of nurses were females. That's a strong message to the girl child, to say this is what a girl should do. If you wanted to do inter-house sports, they may say long distance running for males is 5,000. The longest for females may be 3,000. They're already telling you, you're not supposed to do this, right? So that's why we never produced a Semaya after the old generations that we had. So you realize that all those things are already happening and already informing people. Our language is already telling people what is work. So for example, in Yoruba language, permit me to say the Yoruba word for office is Ibishe, which literally means where you go to work. So therefore, a Yoruba man can't understand working at home. So if you say, I do this work, I'm an home-based whatever, he doesn't understand because the Yoruba word for work, office, is Ibishe. So if you are not going to Ibishe, you are not Isheing, right? I mean, you're not working. So you see how language, culture, practice, books, movies has influenced people's mindsets as regards what is a career.
Doesn't matter which parts of the world you study from.
No, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, let's be very sincere. Somebody who goes abroad and comes back, if he doesn't have the skills, it doesn't make a difference. He could speak better English, right? Perhaps not always better English. That's what I say. He may have a better accent. You know, the Lafa business locally acquired foreign accent or the foreign acquired one. So he may have that, but that doesn't mean it's going to make sense. If it's not intelligent, let him go anywhere. He may not be intelligent. So he may go from a 2% to a 10% or to a 50% or 20%. But the question is, the guy that schools in Nigeria may be able to also compete with the person at the end of the day. And you know, you were just talking about government officials taking their children out, but permit me to just say something about that. You see, ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. Because you have a right to something doesn't mean you have to do it. And so if leaders know they have a right to send that, and anybody has a right to send a child anywhere, like I also have my right. But I come to a point where some things will not be right to do. They are not wrong. A leader is the chief marketer of his country. One of the things you use to rate universities in the world is the number of international students you have in that university. When I was growing up, I had people who came to study from all over Africa and out of Africa in my school. If you remember your student handbook many years ago, there was a tuition fee for foreign students, right? Yes. So once you don't have foreign students in your school will never be rated very high. So when your leaders now go to make those schools have foreign students, they're already marketing that their schools are not there. So it's not a question of people say sign a law. No, it's a marketing issue. If the wife of a pastor does not attend his church, what are you doing in that church? Yes, I mean, so that's my own response. But the question is that the competition started
long time ago.
Okay, so let me quickly take you up on saying that if you're not intelligent, let's take, for instance, you school abroad, but you're not intelligent. And I want to disagree because I was taught as an educationist that there is nobody that is dull. And it just happens to be the way that person has been trained, and because we all have our different levels of intelligence and we have different ways that we learn and assimilate better. And most of our schools here are not equipped to capture every child. I was very terrible in numbers in primary school because probably my teachers didn't know how to catch my kind of attention. But when I got to the university, I got a B in statistics, okay, because I was now old enough to understand the numbers. So could it be that if people perceive you as not intelligent, maybe you're not interested? Because I know people who have traveled, who went to the right schools, who studied like they did, and when they come back, you see them, they're solution-based compared to what we have here.
So one of the things about migration is that it changes people. I mean, I mean, a Nigerian that will not wash plates in the hotel will go and wash plates in America. A Nigerian that will not help his wife at home will go abroad and go and help the wife at home. When you move, there is a sociological response to that. For some children, that's what happens when they go abroad. Now, talking about intelligence or not, I mean, if we use school alone as a yardstick, what I will admit to is the fact that maybe because of things like student-teacher ratio, maybe things like various ways you want to teach people. I mean, so I was a science student. There were things they taught me that I read. I never saw it.
Okay.
I mean, so that's why we are very imaginative. You know, once there's a crisis in Nigeria, people start to create stories and funny, and you're wondering why. It's because
where did that come from?
It's cool. So you were taught about gold lead electroscope, what you use to determine charges in physics. You never saw it. Your teacher never saw it, right? So it's describing what he read. And so you are also forming mental images of it. I will never forget the first time I saw what is called a bidet. Bidet is a French word for a device in the toilet, B-I-D-E-T. So, you know, because the French don't pronounce T, that's why it's called a bidet. I was taught in university about the bidet. I was examining in a course in the university about the bidet. I drew a chart of a bidet. I never saw it for the first time. The first time I saw it was about 5 years after I graduated. Then I realized, so I saw this and I said, please, what's this? I said, that's a bidet. I said, wow, this was what I was examining on 10 years ago. Without seeing it. So that's why we have that creative mentality. So one of the things parents also need to start to think about is that know your child. Some children will never be excellent academically. I mean, Howard Gordon has said that there are 9 categories of intelligences. Some children will be musically intelligent. Some children will be spatially intelligent. Some children will be interpersonally intelligent. You know, some children can get things from you, right? You know those mommy? I mean, they know how to get things from you. Some children don't know how to get it. Some children are very blunt. So you tell a child, I have a headache. One child who is very logical, one of the forms of intelligence will say, have you eaten? Or says, have you taken a drug? That's a logical response based on intelligence. A child that has interpersonal intelligence will likely come and touch your head as if the hand is a thermometer.
Yes.
Now, there's a sense in which parents now kill those things because they'll say, look at this one, useless boy, he's telling me that have I taken Parental. Look at your junior brother, he came to test his temperature. Both of them are intelligent. They have only manifested intelligence differently.
Hello, are you there? Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I need to contribute. Thanks for what you're doing there. I really appreciate it. What I want to say in terms of Nigerians are very, very educated. They're intelligent.
Yeah.
What these people are doing, our leaders are doing, just to continue to push their children forward, so that they will still be in leadership positions as time goes on. But another thing again, we also try to have a recall is that how many of our so-past leaders or most millionaires that send their children abroad change their companies? How many of them are running up till now? None of those companies. We will start mentioning names. All the companies are gone. Some of them will go abroad. They won't even want to come to Nigeria again because they have all the best things you can think of.
All right, thank you very much.
So
yes,
I wanted to jump away with the practical examples, bidet and, you know, the electro, whatever. We did osmosis, at least they gave us yam to try it in biology back in secondary school. But then, do we now say that the children of these leaders or Nigerians generally who can afford better education must be compelled to stay in schools where they don't get, they're condemned to this kind of examples that you've given, when their parents are actually seeing better opportunities of learning so that they're more equipped outside?
I mean, it's the responsibility of every parent to give the best to his child.
Yeah.
But the definition of best is relative, based on what I can afford, based on my status, and based on the kind of job I do. I work in the private sector, so I don't have a public sector motive to take decisions. So, for example, if I'm annoyed, I can say certain things. Somebody in government can say it. So if a parent feels that the best way for me to let my child to learn something is to go abroad, yeah, fine. But the question is that if I'm a leader and I have a responsibility to make Nigeria great, I can decide to take my child to a school in Nigeria and ensure that school becomes the standard in Nigeria. I mean, you know, there's a sense in which just because your child attends a school, everybody wakes up and starts to do the right thing in that school. Because you're coming to do visiting day, you're coming to check on your child. Suddenly there is this You know, people have said in times past, you know, the schools used to be better. I went to a public school, public secondary school. I had this speaker in the Second Republic as a student in my school. So the question is, when the principal knows the speaker has a child in this public school, then the principal will behave well. And that's part of what happens where those teachers were also very responsible, because you knew what could be the implication of you not acting.
Okay, I have a friend, I don't know if she's watching, she travels to the UK almost every year. And all her 4 children were born in Nigeria. And I always asked her, why don't you plan the whole migration, get your kids, planning to have the kids? This was many years ago. I said, Morel, I plan to train these children here because I'm going to give them my time. And going back to what you just said is that she's investing her own time, because in her own mentality, it doesn't matter where these children go. If I put in the energy, and she felt it was lazy parenting, shipping your children, young kids, 12, 13, 14, shipping them abroad. It's just to take them to a nice school abroad. That for her is lazy parenting. That what you cannot do physically here, if you cannot do it abroad, is the same result you're going to get. So if you don't invest in your child here and you send them abroad, you're going to come out empty-headed. Exactly. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's still investing in taking your child abroad is still the best option?
The first teacher of a child is a parent. It's not the school. So if you are not there for your child and you take your child to the best school, maybe it's going to look like a mathematical equation +5 -7. You're still going to get -2. So your role to model the right behaviors, right expectation cannot be replaced by anyone. One of the things we also need to think about, and let's not take it out, international education is excellent. I mean, there's a research done by SHRM, that's the largest HR body, that shows that people who have work experience outside of their country make a lot of difference. Now, international education is not necessarily better, it's just that it's international. If a child, Macron, the president of France, was here, that's international education for him. Do you understand what I'm saying? So international education is not always, is a better school from the but the fact that this child is coming to a new culture, is learning new things, is learning to adapt, is understanding the world in a different perspective. I think no child should be delighted that, particularly if the parents can afford it.
So, going to our topic, which is about choosing the right career path. You know, I see many people going to study by just saying, I like chemistry, I like physics, I don't like maths. What course can I do that I won't have to do maths? As opposed to thinking, what would I need to be able to carry out this career? What job would equip me for the career path I want to follow? And we're not thinking like that. So if you know you want to work in a bank or you want to work in a pharmaceutical company, what are the skill sets I need to acquire through the university system that would enable me be employable when I finish? That, for me, is a question that we need to engage people to start thinking about. And how would you advise someone who is at that point of picking a JAMB form and wondering, I don't know what I want to do in the next 5-6 years. Right. How do I go about it?
I think we should change the question from what do I want to do to what problem I want to solve.
Hey,
I mean, because, so she's a lawyer. She's here. She's solving a problem here. She's using her legal skills to solve a problem here. We should see what we study in the University Polytechnic as the tools to use to solve the problem. So I am an human resource professional. I'm going to sit down in an office doing human resources now. I'm here solving a problem. I'm using that knowledge to solve a problem here. So it wouldn't matter whether I work in TVC or whether I work in back home the north or whatever. People come to me and say, I want to work in the oil industry, I want to work in a bank. I say, no, that's not the question. Where you work is not the subject. The subject is what problems you want to solve. So if I determine I want to solve the problem of hunger, that's the problem this child wants to solve. It can decide to be an agronomist. It can decide to be an economist. It can become an artist. It can become whatever. Another child says, I want to solve the problem of construction.
No. But the point is, what you're painting is the ideal picture. Now, we have a structure of how we want to earn money.
Okay.
And people look for career paths. This, I want to solve problem, end up making people using passion to follow a journey that is not financially rewarding for them.
When I come back, we'll let you answer that question. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. All right, I know we've talked about those who graduated, but it's important we talk about those who are about to enter university. Because the jobs today now are different from the jobs then. people are saying they're bloggers, you know, they are photojournalists, all these funny things that parents don't understand.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk to parents now. Your kid's about to get into university. How do you advise them to ensure that when they do graduate, they get something to do?
I think one of the things that parents need to educate themselves on alternatives they have. I mean, so let me give you an instance. A child wants to study nursing. There are few universities that you can study to become a nurse, right? So if the child writes JAM and fails, you ask him to write JAM again and you ask him to write JAM a third time. Do you know the funniest thing? We have over 90 schools of nursing in Nigeria that you don't need JAM for. That child could just take a form and go to a school of nursing in Lagos. In 3 years, that child becomes a registered nurse. That's a license to work and a license to do direct entry. 2 years after, 3 years after, this child is a nurse with 2 certificates, right? Instead of you asking this boy to stay at home, to keep writing JAM and whatsoever. That's one part of it. So parents must know the roots, you know, like the Yoruba will say, you must ask yourself, what are the rules this child can take? Another thing that parents need to also be very aware of because of the reality is that we must know where our children are competitive when it comes to the marks they score in JAM. So in JAM, you are supposed to have a set of people that are coming on merit because they scored very high. The next set of people that you have to admit in a university are what they call catchment areas. Now, that catchment area means that each university has been assigned between 4 to 5 states that you will reduce the cutoff mark for people to be able to come in from those states. So if your child is not strong that he can compete on merit, then make sure the child picks a catchment area, and then the child can be more competitive. Now, the third category is what they call the educational disadvantaged states. If you come from one of those states, you'll be there. So you'll be shocked that, for example, a child will score 270 and may not get admission, and a child that scores 240 may get admission. And people will say, no, they went to bribe. No, it could be that the guy that scored 270 is not from the catchment area of that university, and this guy that scored 240 did. So that's another thing parents need to be aware of. The last point related to that is for parents to know what exactly this child is about. You know, I said earlier, what problems does he want to solve? Because parents now say, problem solving, does he bring food on the table? People pay people for solving problems. So a child says, I want to, so I had this engagement, I went to talk to some secondary school somewhere, and most of the children said they wanted to become doctors. You know, the average science student wants to be a doctor. So I asked her, so why do you want to be a doctor? Interesting was the lady I asked. She said, because I want to take care of people. So I said, okay, is that your only reason? So I said, so what do you mean by you want to take care of people? She said, I want to ensure that people are well. I want to make sure they are well. So I said, okay, have you been healed in the last 3 years? She said, yeah. I said, okay, so who took care of you? She said, the doctor. I said, I want you to think. Were you on admission? He said, yes. She said, yes. I said, so who gave you your drugs every morning? He said, the nurse. Who ensured you went to the bedroom? He said, the nurse. When you were going, who took care of you? Who really took care of you? She said, the nurse. I said, so what exactly do you want to do? I said, how many times did you see the doctor in a day? So I explained to her, I said, you know what? You must define what you want to do.
And
the lady now said, my challenge is that, you see, they don't pay nurses well. I said, that's a different story. That's a different story. The problem, you want to take care of people.
Yes.
It's not true they don't pay nurses well. It depends on what you treat and who you treat as a nurse. So we must, as parents, start to let people understand those things differently. A child says, I want to be an architect. You said, why? He said, I want to design. It's not only architects that design. This guy may study fine arts and start designing shoes. Or start designing hair, or start designing suits, or whatever. Right. So parents need to have the education that will help the children to do that. Let me say this for the parents who is very brilliant. I mean, you know, some of us were very brilliant in school, science student, top student. Then your child comes and mentions one course that you're wondering, you mean I sent you to school to go and study to become this? You must be willing to open your mind. Because in today's world, skills are more important than what people study.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we can end with that. Unfortunately, I mean, we have to bring it back again because, as I said, lots of kids are going to be going to school this September, and they're having this conversation with their parents. And their parents are trying to understand what the new Nigeria is going to look like. And we need these children equipped for that. So we'll have to bring you back, sir. I'm sorry that we have to let you go right now. But when we go on a break, it's Tuesday. We can't leave the show without doing something concerning your health. When we come back, we'll be talking about the eyes. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So our guest will be enlightening us on how to maintain good eyesight. Joining us on the show is an eye expert. and District Governors Lions Club International, Mr. Wesley Kafidia. Welcome to the show, sir.
Welcome, sir.
The player is mine.
You're actually a doctor, actually, not Mr. Welcome to the show. All right, so eyesight. I mean, a lot of people, especially me, recently, actually, I was complaining about my eyes. How do we maintain a decent eyesight?
Sincerely, as we all know, prevention is better than cure. So as it applies to all aspects of our health, it also applies to our eyesight. We need to at least make sure that we inculcate the habit of good basic health care system in our life. And that includes making sure first thing in the morning you wash your eyes with clean water. And whenever you want to touch your eyes, be sure that your hands are clean so that you don't contaminate diseases through whatever you might have touched. The same way, if you are feeling itches in the eye, you either make sure you have very clean water, dip your eyes in them for whatever particles could be in there to get removed. On the other hand, you ensure you get in touch with your eye consultant. However, we know that most of our people are not so comfortable to access most of the health facilities available because the affordable ones are not so much within our environment. So they need to find a way of embracing every opportunity to have their eyes examined. We have a lot of them being undertaken by various NGOs, including our humble self, Lions Clubs International. Since we were challenged to be the Knights of the Blind in 1925 by an American, Ellen Keller, we've been focusing a lot on care of the eyes, providing facilities, providing enlightenment to the populace, and once in a while, making sure that we afford them opportunities to check their eyes. Most of the clubs dotted all over the place at various times during each Lions year provide populations in their communities with basic eye screening exercises. And the problem is those who really need it don't come forth to enjoy it.
Let's talk about certain eye conditions that we overlook. Because I, for long, have been having, usually when I'm driving for a while, I have to close my eyes to let out tears because my eyes, I just feel hot inside. Kindly explain why that happens and you know what I can do to permanently stop it.
First and foremost, we must realize that we must avoid overstressing our eyes. If the conditions are not right for you to read without aid of the eyeglasses, make sure you don't. That is, there must be bright lights for you to read. The fonts of whatever you are reading must be suitable for the state of your eyes. Instead of you stressing it to cope with the fonts, you should ensure that you get either a magnifier to ensure that your eyes can cope. That is a bit. If you overstress it or driving when the lights are so bright outside or it's sunny and you know that your system can cope, then you find a way of either using the medicated dark glasses so that you don't overstress your eyes.
Sir, but I know that they've recommended certain foods for people to eat that will help, you to have healthy eyes. I would like you to mention some of those things that we can add to our diets for those who are not already doing it.
Basically, fruits.
Fruits.
Most of the fruits are quite useful for health purposes, including eye care and prevention. So I would recommend that we take, especially we are blessed with fruits in Nigeria. True. In their seasons, let's make sure that we take as much as we can. They are not so expensive in their season. So
what about fishes?
Well, basically, let's be sure that we have balanced diet, first and foremost. But some things can also aid it.
Most of the time when we hear of free eye checks and all of that, what usually take place is just to check your eye for reading issues and recommend glasses and give glasses. However, there are many other eye-related conditions that are not based on glasses, like the case of glaucoma, people having prescribed that, okay, you might have a little pressure behind your eyes and all of that. What are the ways to deal with such diagnosis when it portends that there might be onset of blindness later in future?
But sincerely, most of the NGOs that provide opportunities for eye checks do go further than that. From my records, every year we sponsor people for glaucoma surgery, both in cooperation with Five Foundation, and in some cases we get subsidized outlets that will allow us to even have it at a lower rate, which we pay for. So people should go further. What we found out is that after the screening, some of them are not so easy to trace. Once they have that little sheet written for them, and they are told of whatever challenges they have, they run away out of fear of surgery and other things.
Let me take this call from Tayo from Agodo. Tayo, are you there?
I'm there. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I would like to speak regarding the former topic.
Yes, go ahead.
Where I totally agree with that speaker. See, the truth is that as for a few visitors of few countries, and I grew up in Nigeria, I went to public schools and all that. The truth is that if you are not sharp, you are not sharp. That's one. Two is that strategically, our leaders know what they are doing. They want to keep their children in the ends of affairs. Look at the way they killed us. You can't imagine a student of a medical student, either a medical doctor, dentistry, whatever. If you enter a civil service, their payment scheme is different from other graduates in other civil service. It's totally wrong. Now, they're giving us that code saying that, okay, these courses are superior.
Hello?
No, I think we lost it.
All right, going back to the issue of eye. In children,
Yes.
I see kids using glasses. Is it hereditary? Is it something happened that causes kids wearing glasses? Or what should a parent do when, or does the parent notice when there's a problem with the eye of a child early enough in the child's age?
Obviously, children eye complaints may be hereditary, that is genetic. But in most cases, mismanagement of care of the children at early age, at early stage, even from birth, can also contribute to it, carelessness of the parents. But the basic truth is that whenever they notice anything in the child, they should at least urgently gain access to examination for proper management.
Still on the child, sorry. Still on the child, it worries some parents that if they start using, if they recommend eyeglasses for those young kids, that it will deteriorate and cause their eye, maybe they will lose eyesight later in the future, that it's too early to introduce glasses to children at like 4, 5. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree. Especially, I'm a very good example of that. I knew that early in secondary school, I had high challenges. In fact, I was born in Kano and my parents were there. So I went to SIM, Sudan Interior Mission, it used to be called. I was diagnosed, I was given glasses. Before I left secondary school, I stopped using glasses. And in fact, throughout my university days, I never used glasses. I got back to glasses just a few years ago. So it's not true. It depends. Glasses can be very corrective. And then if you have continued management of the system, you can get out of it, especially at early age.
There are some people who have been given the glasses, but then because of the fact that it doesn't fit them or they don't want to wear it,
they set it
aside. And then they still complain of the eye issues. I have a family member who it happens to, you know, so won't it be, is it when you drop those glasses when you are meant to use it, aren't you going
deterioration
yes, for your eyes? So what do you advise such people to do?
In fact, I advise that once you are medically diagnosed to be in need of glasses, you should joyfully embrace it, wear it as much as possible. And you know there are two categories, the ones for reading and the ones for sight only. So if you have to wear it to read, please wear it to read. For example, mine is for reading only. I drive without glasses and I go about without glasses.
I was recently diagnosed and I was recently given glasses, I think 2-3 weeks ago. I haven't worn it. I'm just not used to it. So I read, I'm straining my eyes, I'm constantly...
Get used to it.
I'll try to get used to it. Go ahead, Hima.
So I wanted you to talk about the success rates of most of these eye surgeries that people talk about. Because in Nigeria here, you know, people are a little hesitant when it comes to going for surgeries or eye surgeries. Well, how successful are the ones that you've done, the ones that you've seen, and you know, what's the percentage to encourage people?
But sincerely, from our records and from our experience, the success rate is relatively high now. So, we have a lot of capacity within our system that are coping well, especially at the good ones. And that is why whenever we diagnose people we want to support, we take them to where we are sure we will get the best services for them. Though we have a few cases of complaints, but once you can get back to those who handled you, they should be able to take corrective measures to ensure that you can cope. I don't think there's any fear.
Okay, and is there any relationship between diabetes and eye problem?
Yes, we have what we call high retinopathy. And when you have that, it has to do with diabetes, but it's still treatable. We have a lot. That is why all the projects we're handling now in Lionism, we have an eye center in Ota. We have in Lasut here. We also have in Isolo. But beyond that, we have about 3 ongoing ones. We have a big project with grant of $55,000 from our headquarters going on in Osun State now, Oshogbo General Hospital at Shubiaro. And what we are trying to do is to ensure that all possible eye care services at that primary level could be handled at that point with outreaches to the surrounding villages and communities, so that whatever they can diagnose during those outreaches, they will be referred to the General Hospital for treatment. Beyond that, during this year, we are going to complete what we call Lions Club's Ophthalmology Center at Obafemi Awolowo University Hospitals Complex in Teaching Hospitals Complex in Ile-Ife. And we want to make sure that it is turned out to be a center of reference, a center of excellence for all aspects of eye care.
Thank you very much, sir. Well done. And unfortunately, we just send us more information once the complex is available, so we can tell more people about it. All right, that's all we can take on the show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Don't forget, tomorrow is a live audience show. Come early so you can get a seat. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.